Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? And are you wanting to get started right now in the new year? Then welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone, and a very, very happy new year to all of you, wherever you are. So we're kind of in the moment between the solar and lunar New Year's, and whichever one you celebrate, I hope it's a fantastic start to the year. My wife and I actually celebrate both of those. But we actually feel more connected to the lunar New Year calendars than the solar. But this year I was doing some contemplation on New Year's resolutions. And I've addressed this topic previously in podcasts many years ago. But in thinking about it this time, one of the things that kept coming up is that for decades, as long as I can remember when I was young, it was extremely commonplace for people to make New Year's resolutions. And back then, a lot of people stuck with them and actually succeeded at those resolutions. Of course, you had a number of people who didn't. But today, it seems that this has been inverted. It's been flipped, and now it's popular to denounce making any New Year's resolution. And the rationalization is based upon the fact that most people fail at the resolutions anyway, so why should they even bother? This is a bit alarming. And once again, we can see how something that could be beneficial has been twisted, if not outrightly abandoned. And the problem with this is that it breeds a dramatic increase in mental laziness and surrendering your power. It's giving up. It's not even trying in the first place. Look at the twisted logic here. So people say, I'm not even going to bother making a New Year's resolution because I'm never able to succeed at them anyway. Okay, well, how do you ever intend to make improvements on yourself or your life? You understand that when we engage certain practices, they're like the implementation of resolutions. If you can't make a resolution at the beginning of the year and stick to it and actually remember it and have it come about, do you expect to make any progress on the spiritual path? Do you honestly believe that if you can't make a simple resolution and stick with it and succeed at it, that you're going to be capable of succeeding at the spiritual practices, which can be far more demanding and daunting? I don't think so. See, that's how I ended up viewing a New Year's resolution, as a bit like a spiritual practice. It's just going to be one of those forms of self-improvement that you choose to implement for yourself or your life. And then you have to remember to stick with it and do it daily, just like any other practice that you intend to succeed in. It's just consistency. That's all it is. And that's why most people give up and fail, is because they lack the discipline. They lack the mental discipline. They lack the mental focus. They lack the ability to consistently engage in something. And of course, the things that are most difficult to stick with are those that are most beneficial to us, right? Think about all those bad habits like watching a TV show or sitting in front of the news or whatever it is, or, what do they call that? Binge watching Netflix or something, right? All of those bad habits, all of those less than beneficial activities you engage in, all that mindless stuff you engage in. Yeah, that's not hard to stick with at all, is it? No, that's real easy. But when it comes to doing something positive, oh man, now that's a challenge. So you know what? I'll probably just not even bother with it anyway. Do you see how twisted that has gotten? When we begin a new calendar year, it's a time of renewed focus. It's a time of renewed energy. It's a time to set our goals, to come up with something again, something that we can benefit from for ourselves or our life. It's just like they say, right? Each morning that we awake, we have the ability to write a new chapter in our book. Well, the new year is exactly the same opportunity. It's to focus ourselves every day of that year on at least one goal that we intend to accomplish, something that we really want or that we realize we truly need. I mean, whatever happened to actually making a New Year's resolution and sticking with it? Has humanity become so mentally and physically weak that they can no longer produce any sort of results when looking to improve themselves or their lives? I don't know. But for the mindless masses, it would certainly seem so, wouldn't it? My wife and I sit down at the end of each year and we write out our goals in every facet of our life. We usually do 5 to 8 facets of life, and we write out the goals. We put timelines and we put goals and we put our desires and everything that we intend to accomplish in the coming year down on paper. We get it out. We do this every year, and we succeed at almost everything. And in some years, we exceed what we write down. This year, I haven't heard anyone speaking of any resolutions at all. Not on social media, not in personal encounters, not even as you pass by people on the street. With no one have I heard anything about resolutions. And on most forms of social media, if you do see anything about it, it's being demonized. And this is a way that these platforms are twisting our logic. You have to be very leery of what's going on social media, and you have to discriminate very carefully with what you choose to pay attention to. So I did see a beneficial meme that came through, and this was by a Facebook page called The Way of Meditation. So those guys get credit for this. So this is a quote from something they posted. It said, "Talking about our problems is our greatest addiction. Break the habit. Talk about your joys." End quote. Isn't that incredible? Now, how is that for a New Year's resolution? Why don't we borrow this from the good folks who post these things on The Way of Meditation? And to give them credit, I've saved this. I'm going to post it on my author Facebook page so you can see the original quote by these guys and their logo and all that stuff. So let's look at this. Let's use this, shall we? I mean, this is one of the most useful things that I saw come through anywhere around the holidays. Talking about our problems is our greatest addiction. You're damn right it is. The mind gravitates to the negative, the ordinary, mindless mind. The unawakened mind gravitates towards the negative all of the time. So, complaining about our problems or the things we don't like or whatever, right? That is a form of mental addiction. And I've explained this. So if you haven't heard how this causes chemical reaction in the body and all of this and how this creates the addiction, I really recommend you go back and find, I did like 2 or 3 different podcasts on that topic and explain the science of physiology, everything as to how that happens, because it is truly an addiction. Break the habit. How about that for a New Year's resolution? How about if we do that? How about if we break that habit, if we give up that addiction of talking about our problems all the time and instead talk about our joys? Think about that for a moment. Can you imagine what it would be like if people took more time to talk about all the great things going on in their life than all the stuff that they just continuously complain about? Can you imagine how that would be? Can you imagine the interactions you could have with people? How good that would feel? Can you imagine that you could use that to raise your vibration and keep it high? Yeah, how is that, huh? All you have to do is talk about the joys in your life. Talk about the things that make you happy. Focus on that. Raises your vibration, will allow you to stay in a state of appreciation. It'll open your heart, all those things that we want. Simple, right? How simple is this for a New Year's resolution? Just stop complaining and instead talk about the things that you find joyous. Do you think people would appreciate you more? Do you think they'd enjoy having you around a little more? Enjoy your company? Well, we would think. Once upon a time, yes, that was absolutely true. People loved being around you if you're positive. Today, I find they find it very unsettling. And man, is that sad. How messed up is that? I mean, come on. That is messed up. When people feel more comfortable around other people who complain and piss and moan all the time, and they become very unsettled and very uncomfortable with people who are positive and speaking from a place of joy and appreciation. Wow. Wow. We cannot allow humanity to fall that far, my friends. We can't do it. And it's up to each of us to hold that vibration up and to raise others to a higher vibration too, so that they can experience how great it feels. Pull them out of the depths of despair and misery. Pull them up into the heights of appreciation, love, and joy. And you can do that just by not complaining about your problems. Stop talking about the problems and the things you don't like, and talk about your joys and the things you do like. It's that simple, and that's how you start to break that habit, break that addiction. So here's the challenge for you. Here's your New Year's resolution challenge. Are you ready? All right. So every time you find yourself thinking about complaining, right? Because a thought runs through your mind before you open your mouth. Now, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, and they just open their mouth and let it come out. But if we're being mindful enough to pay attention to that, then we're going to notice that we're thinking something negative. And we can, in that moment, prevent ourselves from saying it. And we can go one better. We can actually think about changing it. You know, I was going to complain about this thing that person's doing, but instead, I'm going to think about something that I'm enjoying right now. And I'm going to talk about that with someone instead. That's going to be the topic of conversation. See how that goes? You can do the same thing if you catch yourself speaking and you're already engaged. You know, you've done the thinking and now you're engaged in verbalizing this to somebody. Catch yourself. And don't be embarrassed. Don't be afraid to catch yourself in mid-sentence and go, you know, that's not important anyway. You know what I really would like to bring up to you is this, and then share with them something positive. Stop yourself. Refocus yourself. Recenter yourself. And then take it into a positive place where you talk about your joys. Talk about something that makes you feel good. And then hopefully they'll be able to feel good as well. Could a powerful practice be so simple? Yes, it can. Many of them are. And it doesn't take that much effort to do this. What it does require is a sense of mindfulness, however. Those of you that have been following my podcast, those of you that have been working with me personally, especially those of you working with me personally, I take you through a very, very specific, proven program that people are having absolutely tremendous results with. You guys will have the mindfulness to be able to do something like this. Won't be an issue. Now, yeah, something may come up where you spontaneously, spout off or something. That's fine. Catch yourself if you can. If not, think about it afterwards and go, I just forgotten there. I did it. I resorted back to that negative addiction of complaining about a problem. You know what? I gotta fix that. And then think, even if you just do it within your own mind, think to yourself, what could I have talked about instead? Did I really need to complain about that? Did I need to blow off that much steam over something that probably didn't matter? And in this way, you get used to correcting yourself, and you just make these corrections. But catch yourself as much as you can, first from thought, and then, of course, as you speak it, putting it into vibration out into the world. So I would ask each of you to join me in bringing this meme put out by the way of meditation into active reality. Bring it to life and see if it holds as much value as they thought it did when they posted this. And no, I'm not getting any endorsements. I don't get any money from the way of meditation or anybody else. My podcasts, I haven't monetized them or anything. So I'm getting no money from anyone in any way, shape, or form for doing this. Doing this 100% free as a way to try and pass on some real spirituality, authentic spiritual practices at a time when these things are being twisted, distorted, and abandoned. I'm trying to help preserve these incredibly important teachings. They are sacred teachings. They are treasures. A little while back, my wife and I went on a trip to Japan, and we went to Mount Shigi, to a esoteric Buddhist temple there, and we stayed there for a while, and we engaged in practices with the priests and monks, and we had a talk with one of the head priests before we left, and he was very troubled. He was very distraught when he presented a question to my wife and I, and this question broke our hearts. This gentleman asked us if anyone in America was still interested in these type of teachings, in developing mindfulness, because they're not seeing much for visitors, for people making pilgrimages like my wife and I did. And he was very concerned. Not to have people come there and stay. He was concerned for the whole of humanity. This person's heart was tremendous. And he was a wonderful living example of these teachings and how incredibly important and beneficial they are. I told him that the world still understands these teachings, still grasps their importance, and they still treasure them. No, they're not training in them as much as they once did, as much as they need to, but it still survives. And we see the idea of mindfulness everywhere around us. It's used as a buzzword now, but that's not mindfulness. That's not any of these authentic teachings. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help these people that treasure this stuff to keep this going, to protect the traditions, to protect the authenticity of the practices and these teachings, without overlaying the religious dogma onto them, because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. If you grasp the heart of a practice and you engage that practice, you keep it alive, and that's the most important thing. These things were never meant to be religious. They were meant to be exactly what they are. Very effective practices. So, let's undergo a New Year's resolution practice to break the greatest addiction that human beings have, which is talking about our problems, and instead, let's start to talk about our joys. What joys are you experiencing? What joys do you see around you? What joys do you want to convey to others? And wouldn't it be wonderful if you could enjoy listening to someone else talk about their joys? I know I sure do. I love to see other people get excited about things. I don't see it very often anymore. But I love it. I love to see that sparkle in their eye and to see how their energy rises when they start to talk about these things. And I love to know what other people enjoy. What gets them going? What is it that they just love out of life? It doesn't have to be what I do. It doesn't have to be something I'd like to get into. It doesn't matter as long as they do, as long as they can get excited about it, as long as it gives them something joyful to talk about. Now, it helps if it's meaningful, but at least it gives them something positive to talk about, to focus on, to work with. So I would ask you again to perform this as a New Year's resolution. I hereby make a New Year's resolution to abandon the greatest human addiction of talking about my problems. I will break the habit. And instead, I will choose to talk about my joys. It's that simple. So I have expressed to you some practices around appreciation where in the morning when you wake up and you think about 3 things that you really appreciate about yourself or your life, and then you go into the day holding on to that sense of appreciation. Well, that's fine. Talk about those things. That right there gives you a topic. If you want to do it specifically for this, then when you get up in the morning, think about 3 things that you did the day before that you found enjoyable, that brought you joy, that give you reason to appreciate. Those are your talking points right there. That's what you have. And then talk to other people about that. Whatever it is you did. You know, hey, I read that book by that Zen master, and you know what? That book was awesome. Man, I love that book. This is a passage that he said, this is a quote that they shared that really meant a lot to me. Do you get this? Do you see how cool this is? Share things, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, but focus and share the positive things, the joys in your life. Let go of the problems. You know, we could argue that, well, by talking about them, it releases all that pent-up energy. And while that can be true, we could also understand that by learning to let these things go, which I just covered in a different podcast, when you learn to let these little things go and stop focusing your mind on them, you break the addiction. Once you break the addiction to talking about your problems, then what's left? Just to talk about all the good stuff, and you focus on all of that good stuff. So join me in making this New Year's resolution to rid yourself of this incredible addiction, this mental addiction. Break that habit and talk about your joys. There are too many avenues out in life right now that are all drawing people into being negative. Don't fall for it. You don't have to get sucked into it. You don't have to engage in the drama. Instead, you can engage in your joy. And just as a plug, I will say this. If you want to get a handle on this, if you want to learn how to break this addiction and really, really understand how to master the sense of appreciation, then I've got to plug the Appreciation Mastery Program because that is more powerful than you can imagine. It is 100% authentic teachings. There's no fluff in that 4-disc set or the 3-disc set. I can tell you that. It is 100% authentic, powerful content that will help you to do such things. It will help you break this addiction of talking about your problems, thinking about your problems, and it will teach you how to share your joys. It will teach you how to remain in a state of appreciation all the time. What could be better than that? You can get that at www.expansionmastery.com. That is the only place that you can find the Appreciation Mastery Program, along with signed copies of Expansion Mastery and my 2-disc set, The Breath Bridge. I recommend stocking up on those things. Arm yourself with that kind of incredible information and authentic practices that you can get from those products. And I would like to give a special thanks to the folks at The Way of Meditation for coming up with something so insightful and positive to put out on social media. Thank you guys. That was excellent. And to everyone else, make sure that you share these podcasts, do all the subscribing, liking, commenting, all that social media stuff we have to do. That helps to keep this going and to get it out in front of the people who need it. I need your help to do that. I cannot do that alone. So I look forward to your assistance. And until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care and happy New Year.